Hey guys, we have a special guest visiting the tavern today. We have Ring of Honor star Mr. Infinite Eli Isom. What's going on, man?
Oh, not much. I like that intro. That's a pretty slick intro. I was watching that. I like that a lot. Yeah.
Thanks, man. So how's things been going, man? What's new in your life recently?
Not much. I'm just chilling back in my hometown in Indiana, which means there's absolutely nothing to do here. Whenever I need time to just like unwind or take it easy for a little bit, I just head back here, and I definitely get that in droves for sure.
That's awesome. One of our really good friends who's actually a part of the podcast, he grew up in Fairmount, Indiana, the birthplace of James Dean, and his mother lives in Indianapolis. So we know all about Indiana. He's a diehard Colts fan, so we have to put up with that.
Okay, yeah, I got plenty of Colts fans, plenty of Bears fans around here. Not a fan of either one of them, so it's always been hard, keeping the peace.
Yeah. So you have a show coming up that's in Indiana. It's an indie show. I believe Turbo and Truth Magnum of the Outrunners, they have a hand in this indie show. It's from Dream Pro Wrestling on September 18th in Jeffersonville. Talk a little bit about that event and how you got involved with that.
Yeah, I'm super excited for it. Like you said, September 18th, Jeffersonville, Indiana. It will be my second time wrestling in Indiana throughout my whole career. I've only wrestled in Indiana twice, so super excited for that. I actually got put onto the show by Turbo because me and Turbo are from the same hometown. We went to the same high school and everything. So that's
wow.
Yeah, he graduated before I got into high school, but I've always looked up to him and stuff like that. He was a hell of an athlete when he was in school. So I always thought he was a pretty cool guy. But yeah, he put me onto the show. He asked me if I can get involved, and I was like, yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. No questions asked.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So you knew of him before getting into wrestling. You guys knew of each other?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've definitely known of Turbo for pretty much my whole life, I would say. I know his family and his mom and, stuff like that. His mom was actually one of the track coaches at in the Rensselaer High School. So, yeah, I'm very familiar with him. He's familiar with me. So that's why he reached out, and that's why I accepted, happily.
That's awesome. It's got to put a nice spin on it for you, make it special to come do this event.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's definitely super special. Like I said, it's only my second time wrestling in Indiana, so that just makes it even more special for me. But the fact that it's Turbo is involved into the show, I just think that's pretty cool. It's a small world.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's like the wrestling world's a small world, but then to come from a hometown of a guy who's also doing the passion that you're following, that's very, very cool.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's always funny too, because when I'm back home, people will be like, "Oh, do you know Turbo? Do you and Turbo ever?" I was like, "Yes, I know him. We haven't wrestled yet, but yeah, I do know him." So, yeah, it's always fun to hear stuff like that.
That's awesome. Now let's talk about the early days. Were you a lot of guys, most guys who get into wrestling, they were fans first. Were you a fan growing up? What were you watching? Who were your guys?
Big fan, huge fan growing up. I was always I was a SmackDown guy at first. That was my first, when I got into wrestling, that was my first love was, Thursday Night SmackDown at the time. So yeah, guys like Kurt Angle and Eddie Guerrero and Brock Lesnar, guys like that. I was just like, oh man, these guys are awesome. Then outside of WWE, I would watch TNA, but I would always have to kind of sneak to watch TNA because it was on Spike TV, and Spike TV kind of had some some raunchy shows, I guess you could say.
Maybe a little questionable, yeah.
Sure, yeah. So I'd have to sneak and watch TNA Impact. But yeah, Samoa Joe, and again, Kurt Angle when he switched over there, and guys like Jay Lethal and the Motor City Machine Guns. I thought those guys were awesome. So yeah, those are the two main shows that really got me into wrestling first when I first started watching it.
Now, out of those two shows, being a fan, what do you think as far as the stuff you were watching from those two shows, what do you think influenced you as a pro wrestler the most?
I think really when I started watching, like I love SmackDown, don't get me wrong, but when I started watching, like the X Division in TNA, I was just like, man, this is awesome. Like, these guys are doing so many cool things, and they were doing a lot of different things that WWE wasn't doing. So it was like completely different styles, and I just always thought that X Division wrestling was pretty cool.
I had a hunch when you said you were watching TNA. I was like, I bet, having seen you wrestle, I was like, I bet he was an X Division fan. And so many young indie guys coming up right now. I know we spoke to Braden Lee, who I believe you were in a 7-man scramble with in GCW. He said the same thing. Big TNA fan coming up. I feel like that TNA X Division doesn't get enough credit on the influence it's had on independent wrestling right now.
No, I don't think so either, because I mean, there's just so many names that you can go off of, like AJ Styles and Sanjay Dutt, and even Samoa Joe. Like, he was such a big guy, but he was still doing like all these crazy things, and I was like, it blew my mind. I couldn't believe it, especially for me. Like, I'm not the biggest guy in the world, so when I see guys of my size, doing those kind of things, I was like, oh man, maybe I can do something like this. Maybe it's not that too far fetched of an idea.
Yeah, you didn't have to be Brock Lesnar size to get into pro wrestling.
Or else I'd be screwed.
Now, as a fan, like watching, did you ever like get into the collecting side of it? Like, were you into any of the wrestling merch?
Not so much t-shirts, but I would collect the wrestling action figures. I would do that. Like, I would get like this new action figure and I'd bring it to school, and like there were a couple other people that had like older action figures, so I'd be like, hey, I'll trade you this new one if you give me like 5 of your other ones. Sure. So like I had like over 70 action figures just collected and like hoarded, and like parents were like, where did you get all these? Like, what happened to the ones we bought you? And I was like, oh, I'm just letting a friend borrow it and stuff like that. So yeah, not t-shirts, but yeah, action figures for sure.
It's a hell of a way to learn to barter as a kid, man. That's
I'll give you 2. I'll give you 1 of mine for 3 of yours. That's getting that early business mind, that the carny business mind early.
Yeah, it's definitely helped with my negotiations, in wrestling. I think so.
So what was it that took you from being a fan to wanting to learn the art form of professional wrestling? What was that moment where you said, I want to become a wrestler?
So for me, I always knew I wanted to try it, but I just didn't have the access to it, because our hometown is so small. Rensselaer, Indiana, very small place. I think the population's maybe 5,000, maybe. So not a whole lot around the area to get involved in pro wrestling. But I was working with my dad, who's a mechanic, and I was on my lunch break, and I was just like shifting through things. I was just thinking to myself, like, I wonder what like I'm gonna do with the rest of my life, because I knew I didn't want to do that for the rest of my life. So I was just like thinking through things, and I was like scrolling on YouTube, and I saw a video, and Jay Lethal was on the video, and he was talking about like things you might not know about Ring of Honor. And one of the things was that they had a training facility and that they would train you from scratch. So I was like, oh man, that sounds pretty cool. So once I heard that, I just saved my money up, and this was in 2016. So I just saved my money up, and then at the end of 2016, my mom, she passed away in a car accident. So I was like, yeah, I have to go for this. I absolutely have to like, give it a shot. So then in 2017, that's when I was like, okay, I'm going to be a professional wrestler.
So with the passing of your mother, did you feel like that was kind of like a moment for you to really chase your passion almost in the honor of her and what she instilled in you?
Absolutely. Yeah, I believe so, because like I said before, I was kind of just like content with where I was at. Like, I didn't really like mind like what I was doing, but I wasn't really like thrilled about it. So, but once she passed away, I knew that I had to do something that would make her proud and make my whole family proud and make myself proud, because I feel like I have a lot to offer, and that's what I'm trying to present in my professional wrestling.
That's awesome, man. I mean, what an honorable thing to do too. I think there's nothing to kind of make a parent proud or honor a parent by chasing your passion, and going after something that would make you happy, because parents just want their children to be happy. So that's such a phenomenal way to honor her.
Thank you. Yeah, that's what I'm going for. And even when I moved out to Pennsylvania to start training, my dad was in full support. My sisters, my whole family were in full support of me. So without that support, I don't think I would have made it. So it's thanks to them that I got this far.
So what was it like, man? You just said your town, it's a small town, probably under 5,000 people. We're from a small town, so we kind of get that vibe that comes with a small town. What was it like to kind of make that leap and drive to Pennsylvania and go to this pro wrestling school? And that to me seems like it could be pretty intimidating.
It was very very nerve-wracking for sure, because I didn't have like a whole lot to my name. I had the money I had saved up, but like that went to schooling, and then went to like trying to find a place to stay. And so like those early months when I was first training, they were rough. Like I won't lie, I won't like overstate it, but yeah, those were definitely rough months. But I knew that if I just kept going forward, if I just kept pushing through it, things would work out in the end. And thankfully they have, with a little bit of luck and some hard work, things have worked out pretty nice.
So what's it like, walk us through that first day walking into the ROH dojo? What's going through your mind? What are you seeing when you walk in there in those early days, that first day, first week of training? What's going through that mind?
So when I walk into the dojo, I see all these posters up hanging on the walls of like, Austin Aries and Nigel McGuinness and El Generico and Kevin Steen, all these like great wrestlers just hanging up on the wall. And then I see Will Ferrara, and I see formerly known as Cheeseburger, who's now the world famous CV. And they sit me down. They give me the talk. They said they can't guarantee me anything, but they'll teach me to the best of their abilities. Their abilities are awesome, by the way. They're great trainers. So like, I was just listening to them, and, I handed over my check, and they're like, okay, let's get to work. And then we started doing like circuits and stuff like that. And then by the end of it, I was just like, I was dog tired. I couldn't I was like, my hands were on my knees. I was like sucking, trying to get some air in my lungs. But yeah, it was definitely a hard first day. And, but I knew, I was like, okay, like I'm going to come back tomorrow, and I'm going to come back the next day until it gets easier. And, it took a while for it to get easier, but yeah, those first days in the ROH dojo were definitely some special times.
I've heard it's a tough school. I've heard, they push you. And was there moments, you said it didn't get easy quick, it took time. So was there moments of doubt? Like what did you reach down inside of yourself to keep going?
Yeah, there are definitely moments of doubt, because not everybody progresses at the same speed. And so like you see other people that show up to the Ring of Honor dojo, and they're just like, it's the Ring of Honor dojo for a reason, just a lot of great wrestlers pass through that building. But yeah, definitely some self-doubt, but I just knew that like I couldn't quit. I knew that if I like took a break or went back home or something like that, I wasn't coming back. So I was just like, you just got to get through it. Hopefully the next day will be easier, and if it's not, then maybe the next day after that will be. So I just kept that mindset until eventually they thought that I was good enough to, get in the ring and then have shows outside of, the dojo.
I think that's something that people don't, you hear a lot of wrestlers in interviews, and I don't feel like wrestlers get enough credit for just that simple fact of not quitting. I think everyone knows that it's tough. I think especially wrestlers, us as fans, we hear the stories of how hard it is, but I can only imagine like when you don't know what you're doing and you're going in there and you're getting put through that physical regimen, how hard it is. And it really says something about the people that persevere through that and really see it through. I have nothing but respect for you guys.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. And it's super hard. And for anybody who's like thinking about getting into wrestling, or, anybody in wrestling currently that's just starting out, like, my biggest advice is just keep going, just like, don't give up, because it's a hard business. It truly is a hard business. And there are very few individuals that pick up on things super quickly, in my opinion. So yeah, just stay the course, keep doing what you're doing, and things will eventually work out.
So you just celebrated your 4th year in the business. So going back and thinking about your first match versus now, what's one of the biggest things you feel like you've learned in the past 4 years?
I feel I've learned that it's okay to just slow down and take your time, and not having to do 800 moves in 3 seconds or anything like that. It's okay to just keep it simple and take it easy. And I've also just gotten more confident while I'm in the ring. When I first started out, my first match, I didn't really have any set of character or nickname. I was just, Eli Isom from the ROH Dojo, just trying to experience. But now I feel that I've started to, bring my personality out a little bit more, and I've just been more comfortable while I'm wrestling, and I think that's just been a huge help.
Is that tougher, you think, than the physical aspect of it? Is just kind of the character side, the psychology side, the becoming comfortable in the ring side? Do you find that to be maybe not more difficult, but just as difficult as the physical side?
Yeah, I would probably say that it is more difficult, because anybody can be in great shape, and they can look awesome, and have this nice look to them, but they don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to piece a match together. If they don't know how to react to the crowd at a certain time, or it's just not going to work. So yeah, definitely the psychology side of wrestling, I feel is super, super important. And that's not to say that the physical stuff isn't important, because it absolutely is. But once you find your groove, and once you find out how to work in your character at certain points, and interact with people, I think that's just when the floodgates open, and I think that's when you really start to get it.
Yeah, I feel like that's when not only is it clicking for you, I feel like it's almost at the same time it's clicking for the audience. Like, the audience can pick up on those wrestlers that are feeling themselves in the ring. They're getting that swag about them, and we connect to that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. People know, they just when they see somebody, and they're not they don't believe 100% of what they're saying. So if I'm a wrestler and I'm just I can say I'm the best in the world, but if I don't actually truly mean it, nobody's going to buy it. So yeah, once people start to buy into you, and you really express what you're actually feeling, I think that's what pro wrestling is. That's when you've got something special.
Now you spoke about, training with Cheeseburger at the dojo. I know you've had matches with Kenny King. You had a match with Bully Ray. Now, with all the ROH training and the ROH events you've been a part of, who have you kind of soaked up the most knowledge from? I know you're picking things up from probably everyone you step in the ring with, but who is that guy you look back on and you're like, man, that guy, I really found something in the ring with that guy?
That's a tough question, because ROH is full of so many great talents, but I'd probably have to say Shane Taylor if I had to pick just one. We had a match in Lowell. It was at Ring of Honor's Mass Hysteria, and I challenged him for the World Television Championship. And just that match, I don't know, he just brought something out of me that I don't think anybody else did up until that point. And so, yeah, I learned with Shane, you have to bring certain intensity to certain people, and you have to, match their energy. I feel like before that match, I wasn't really doing a good job of that because I was still learning and, you know, just trying to not mess anything up or like,
right.
So yeah, when I was wrestling Shane, and every time I've wrestled Shane since, like it always just brings something new out of me, and that's what I appreciate about him.
And that guy is just doing phenomenal work right now. And
it really is. Yeah, Shane.
So like, you guys have a pretty incredible roster going right now. Like, who are some of the guys maybe on this roster that you look at and you're like, man, I cannot wait to get in the ring with this dude?
Oh, there's so many. Jay Lethal, he's probably my number one, just because like he was one of my favorites growing up, and the fact that I get to work with him is just like, oh man, that's so cool. So,
yeah.
But I've never gotten to wrestle him, and so yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait for that moment. I hope it comes soon. Like guys like Jonathan Gresham, guys like Dragon Lee. Like I can go on and on, but yeah, those are just some of the guys off the top of my head that I would love to get to work with in the future.
Now, if there's one thing, you know, ROH is doing phenomenal work, some of the best in-ring work in the business. What's something that you feel like the roster or the company could do to elevate it just a little more? Like what's something that you think collectively as a group, not to pick it apart because we all love ROH, but what's something you're like, maybe if we do this, it could elevate us to the next level?
I'm not too sure, to be honest with you. I feel like our in-ring product I think it's one of the best, if not the best. I feel we could do like a little bit better job of just putting our shows out there and like making sure people know where they can watch Ring of Honor or like, you know, when our shows are and live, like our live events. So I think really that's our next step, is finding new ways to interact with fans, finding new ways to just promote ourselves, really. And I think once we find that, I think ROH is, you know, we're going to open up a lot of people's eyes, and I think we're going to bring a lot of people back in.
Absolutely, man. Can you talk a little bit about being a member of the Shinobi Shadow Squad? How that came about?
Yeah, that was just me, world famous CB, and formerly known as Ryan Nova, who is now Ryan Moody. We were just like, well, man, we're not really doing anything. We were just having like random matches and stuff like that. None of us had really any direction. So we all just got together one night after training, and we started like, you know, pitching ideas back and forth to each other. And then we eventually landed on becoming a 6-man team, because at the time Ring of Honor didn't really have a lot of 6-man teams in the division. It was very top heavy. So we figured that, you know, okay, this will be a great way for us to get experience. It'll be a great way for us to like promote the 6-man division and make that more important than it is. And yeah, that's how the Shinobi Shadow Squad was formed. We didn't really have an idea of like our characters at first. We were just like, oh, well, this sounds cool. So, and then we'll just figure everything out later.
Yeah.
Pretty much what happened.
What's kind of the difference for you as far as being a singles wrestler versus being a part of a faction? Does that help in your confidence? What benefits do you gain in being a part of a faction with other guys?
So when I was with the Shinobi Shadow Squad, it was really Burger CB. I always call him Burger. That's just so like he was our rock, me and Ryan's rock, because he's a veteran. He's been doing it since 2013. And so, and he's one of my trainers. Like he trained me from scratch. So I was always like looking for him, looking for his advice. Like I needed to know if like this was okay, what I was doing. So it was kind of like a crutch. I kind of relied on him a little bit too much, if I'm being honest. But now that I'm a singles wrestler, I still look for his advice. Like, don't get me wrong, but now I can try different things on my own, and I can see what works and what doesn't work. And I'm more confident now that I'm a singles wrestler, because I know that it's all on me. You know, I have to perform, you know. And when I was with 3S, it was like, okay, well, the fans love Burger, so, you know, we'll be fine either way, whatever happens. But now I have to make sure that the fans are into what I'm doing. And hopefully they are.
Yeah, it's kind of like that, team sports versus, boxing or, those solo sports where in a team you can kind of hide amongst the guys and it's not all on you. But once you step out as that single entity in a sport, all eyes are on you. So it brings the pressure, but I feel like that's probably a good pressure.
Oh yeah, it definitely good pressure, good nervousness, good pressure. It makes me feel that the people at Ring of Honor, they trust me and they trust that I can go out and I can have singles matches, for 15 minutes on TV, and it'll end up being a good match. So the fact that they have that confidence in me, it just makes me even more confident, because sometimes I feel like I'm still learning. Like, I'm still trying to get my legs underneath me. But the fact that so many different people, like in the front office and in the locker room, have so much confidence in me, it just, it does volumes for me. It really does.
That's awesome. So for the fans that don't know who Eli Isom is, let them know. Let them know who you are.
So, like I've said before, I'm just small town guy, Rensselaer, Indiana. My mom instilled this love of pro wrestling for me, so that's why I do it. I do it for my mom. I do it for my dad and my sisters. And now that I'm in Ring of Honor, now that I'm finally on my own, it's time for me to create my own legacy. No more tag team partners. Anybody that I can rely on. It's now my time to create an infinite legacy that will always be remembered within Ring of Honor. The guys like Danielson and CM Punk and Samoa Joe. That's where I want to end up being. That's where I want to end up, in this landscape that is Ring of Honor, this prestigious company. I'm going to be amongst those guys. And, no matter any way that I do it, I feel that I will make my family proud. But, at the end of the day, I do also want to make myself proud.
Yeah, well, we have no doubt that that's going to happen.
Yeah, man. I love the attitude. I love that you're kind of recognizing the history laid before you with those names you mentioned, and that's what you're shooting for. You can't, come on, man. Everybody wants to be a champion, and to have that champion mentality and to be mentioned with those names, I love that.
Yeah, no, that's from day one. That's all I've ever wanted. Because I know how special Ring of Honor is, and I know all the great names that have come before me, and so it's easy to say okay, I just want to be a big star and do all that stuff, but it's more important than that for me. ROH trained me from scratch, and ROH has always been there for me when I was at my lowest, and now that I'm gaining more momentum, they're right there with me. So it's my job, I feel, to give that back to them, to make sure that I give everything that I can back to Ring of Honor.
That's awesome, man. Well, we appreciate you stopping by. We can't wait to see what's in store for you in the future. Before we let you go, though, we have one final question that we always like to end on.
Okay.
So the pandemic's over. You're making towns. You can have 3 wrestlers in the car with you, alive or dead. Who's making those towns with you?
Okay, let's see here. First off, I'll throw Burger in there just because he always gives me something. He's always a fun time. There's a funny story with him. Let's see here. I'd probably go with Macho Man.
Oh,
one of them, because that would just that would be really. I think that would be an interesting time, to say the least.
Perfect choice.
Yeah.
And here, one more. Man, let's see. I'll just go with my favorite wrestler of all time, which is Kurt Angle. I think he can tell me some pretty good stories.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Solid.
A lot of different personalities. So I think it'll ended up being a very good car ride.
Yeah, I love that car. So let everybody know where we can find you on social media. Tell us any events that you want to promote that you got coming up.
Yeah, so you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Eli Isom, but the Isom is spelled EYESUM, so that way everybody knows how it's pronounced. You can also watch me on Ring of Honor Television, which premieres every Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern on Fight TV or on the Ring of Honor website. And also next weekend, which is August 20th and the 21st, Ring of Honor is going to be in Philadelphia and Pennsylvania. at the 2300 Arena. So if you haven't yet, and if you're in the area, get your tickets at rohwrestling.com, and hopefully I see you there.
And September 18th.
September 18th also.
You return home for an event in Jeffersonville, Indiana, September 18th, Dream Pro Wrestling event. That looks like it's filling out to be a pretty awesome card too.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. And I actually found out who I'm wrestling today, which is Tyler Matrix. So I'm super excited about that. I've gotten the chance to meet him a couple times. I know he's a former world champ in a lot of different promotions. When I saw him wrestle, he was in New South. He was the New South heavyweight champion. So, and he had this awesome match with Jonathan Gresham. So I was like, man, if I ever get to wrestle this guy one day, it's going to be pretty cool. So, wish granted.
Going back to Indiana and get a killer match. Can't beat it.
Yeah, no, you definitely can't.
Well, thank you so much, Eli. We had a blast talking to you, man. We really appreciate you stopping by the tavern.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime. Next time, hopefully we talk. I'll have some Ring of Honor gold, and I can display it on the screen for you guys.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. Thanks, man. Have a good night.
Yep, you too. Thanks.